So we're getting closer to the end of our OmniFood project, but there's still 3 sections to go. And so this next one will be the section on pricing and features. So remember how we had already decided that we're going to join together the pricing and also the features of the OmniFood product into one single section. And so this is the one we will build over the next few lectures. So in our content file, we had 2 pricing plans, and so we will create these 2 pricing tables just like in this example on the right side. So with the name of the plan at the top, so with this really big font size there, and then after that, just a list of the features that are included in that pricing plan, and then finally also a call to action button below it. Okay, so 2 pricing tables side by side, and then after that, we will have the typical 4 columns with the other features that are also included in OmniFood. So here we will have some icon that I will want to enclose in like a colored shape. So just like here in this other design example, and then below that a small text and the description. We're going to start in this lecture and probably the next one with the pricing tables, and then in the end we will also build these features. So let's now go have some fun with that. And as always, adding a new section here with the class of section pricing. And as the very first thing, we will want our typical heading here. So here in the testimonials, it is not the way we want, because remember that this section is quite different from the other ones. So instead what we want is this entire container which will center the content in the viewport. So all of this here. So let's paste that here very quick. But we still need to get rid of this center text because here we do not want to center these headings. So this one is pricing. And let's see if we have some title here for the pricing plans. So maybe somewhere up here. Well, where is the pricing actually? Ah, here it is. So here it just says we have 2 pricing plans, but that doesn't really sound so convincing. So of course we want users to sign up for one of these plans, and so we should have a pretty convincing headline here. So I'm going to write a headline that basically tells users that OmniFood allows them to eat well while still being cheap. Or, well, not cheap, but not so expensive. So we can say eating well without breaking the bank. Okay. And so these kinds of titles, of course, you ideally want to get them from your client. But if you don't, then you will just have to basically write them on your own. But then don't forget to also charge them something extra for doing that. Okay, of course you don't have to, but I would at least try that. So as always, let's copy this first part here. So section pricing, and let's give it, as always, the same padding here. And then let's already go check it out. And there it is. Nice. So let's now add another container, which we will make our grid container, so that in there we can have both our pricing tables side by side. So I'm going to create a new container, and here this one I will also make it a grid and a grid of 2 columns. So grid, 2 calls. Okay, so let's call each of them a pricing plan. And then let's just duplicate this here. So plan 1 and plan 2. And then let's see if they are already nicely side by side. And of course they are, thanks to our reusable grid. Okay. And now let's start filling each of them up. So let's get our content here. So we have this sentence here that we could probably place after these pricing plans. And then here we have the plans themselves. So let's just get the first one here. So let's place that somewhere down here. And okay. So we want to start with the name of the plan, remember? And so let's call that one the plain name. Plan name. So this one is the starter. Next up, we have the price. So let's use another paragraph here, but we could just as well also use a span element. So plan price. So this one is $3.99 per month. However, here I actually don't want to write the per month immediately after this, and instead I will want to put it in a new line, as I will show you soon. However, remember how just the number itself of the price, so just this value here, was really big in that example I showed you in the beginning. And so here I want to do the same thing. And so I will just wrap this $sign here into its own span so that we can then format it individually. Okay. Then next is where we will put that per month, but I will actually write a bit more. So let's call this one the plan text. And so here, something nice that I have been seeing is that some companies display their price basically per day. So in this case here, what users get for their $3.99 per month is 1 meal per day, right? And so we can do a quick calculation of dividing $3.99 by 30 days per month. So that's normally the average day in a month. And so we can now say that this is basically just $13 per meal, right? And so that's not too bad. So that sounds good for the user, and so we can write that right here. So per month, just to make it really clear, and then that's just $13 per meal. Right. Then next we have basically here this list of features. Now we already kind of have something like this on our page, right? We already have a list pre-built. So what I mean is this list right here. So this is also, well, in this case, not a list of features, but it is still a list. And so this, I think, would look quite good also in our pricing table. And so what we can do is to now reuse this list. So let's actually go where it is defined, which is right here. So here in the meals section. And there was actually a reason why I didn't call this here immediately the meal list. So everything here was like meal icon, meal attribute, but this one I just called it list. And that is because the list is always a good candidate for reusability. And so that's what we will do now. So I'll just cut the code from here and put it here in our general file, just so we know that it is something reusable. Just here before these helpers. Okay. And so now let's also then simply go ahead and copy the HTML. So just like this. So I'm just copying one li, and then I can just duplicate that a couple of times. So right here after this paragraph, okay. So this first one is 1 meal per day. So instead of vegetarian, and then I'm just duplicating this twice now, using that shortcut. Then the order times are between 11 and 9. Let's put that here. And finally, delivery is free. So in a way, these are also OmniFood features, but these ones are displayed right in the pricing table because they are really important. So let's see what this looks like. And okay. So at least now the list is already formatted, while the rest of the pricing plan, of course, is not yet, but we will leave that for a little bit later, so that we can now actually create the second one. Or actually, there's still something missing, remember, because I also want to place a call to action button at the very end here. And actually, that call to action button might be exactly the same as in the header. So the one that says start eating well. So let's grab simply this one from here. And so that then will also lead the user to that call to action section that we will build a little bit later. So that should be here right after this UL. And here, of course, we do not need this class. So no margin on the right. And that's it. Let's just check it out again. And yeah, nice. So now let's just duplicate the same thing here for plan number 2. So basically copying all of this. And yeah, then we can just replace this entire thing, getting the content here. Let's just paste it here somewhere. And so this one is called the complete. So that's $649 per month. And here we actually get 2 meals per day. So this here should be meals. And so instead of getting 30 meals per month, we actually get 60 now. So let's see what that is per meal then. So 694 divided by 60, and actually that's 649. So that's about $11 per meal, right? So clearly this one here is cheaper. And so with this, we make it immediately obvious, well, that it is cheaper indeed. So 2 meals per day. Go and replace that here. So 2 meals. This one we can order 24/7. So that's also an advantage. Delivery is free as well. So this one is the same, but then there is another one. So let's duplicate this very quick and get access to the latest recipes. Okay. And for some reason it keeps jumping back up. Okay. And now let's add some visual styles here to this text. So let's select these class names. So the pricing plan, let's leave it for later. So that's more of a layout part. And instead, I'm going to copy these 3 right here. So the name, price, and text. And then again, I'm using the Alt or Option trick of selecting everything, then moving here to the back and doing it all at the same time like this. Okay. Now, first of all, we want these 3 here to be centered inside of the plan. So we could now add text align center to all of them, but I think it would be better to actually create like a distinction here in the code between this top part of the pricing plan, so these 3 here, and then the list afterwards. So I think that also semantically this makes more sense. And so here we can use a header element. So basically saying that these 3 elements here are the introduction, so they are the header of this component, so of all this content. So let's call this here the plan header and put that here. And then I will do just the same in the other one, of course. Okay. And so now we can also select that and add text align center to that itself. So text align center, and we can then also create some space after it. For example, by saying margin bottom of 48 pixels. Okay. So that's already a start here. And of course, we are still lacking a lot of styling there. So let's keep going. So the plan name, I want it to be a bit similar to the subheadings. So what this means is, let's use this color here. So this a little bit darker version of the orange. We also want to make it a bit bold using 600 here. And let's give it a font size of, well, let's start with 1.8. I want it to be uppercase as well. And let's even give it some letter spacing of 0.75. Okay, then let's think about the price. So remember how here I want to make the text really big. So let's check our list here of big values. So something like 74 or 62, let's try 74. So 7.4 rem, make it bold as well. And also make it darker. So just like all our headings that we usually have, even though this is not a heading, but it will look a little bit similar. Then, as for the plan text, let's start with our typical 1.8 rem font size and line height of also 1.8 here. Okay, so let's check it out. And of course, we still need some spacing. And well, in general, I think the entire text here is a bit too big. So this text here, for example, is more like a supporting text. And so let's make that smaller and also lighter. So this one here is our default text size and also the default text color. So let's make this one smaller and lighter. And the same for these here, actually. So everything is a bit too big for me. And then, of course, we also need to select this one and make it smaller. So again, just like in that design example I showed you in the beginning. So 1.6 here, let's also decrease the line height. And well, right now the line is actually not breaking, so we cannot even see the line height. But later on, when the page becomes smaller and there's less space, then the line will have probably multiple lines, and then the line height becomes important. So here let's also go to the smaller one, 6.2 rem, and the same here. So we got a little bit carried away here with our font sizes, but like this it should be better. Let's also add some margin to the bottom here, 3.2 rem, let's say, and then also to the price itself. Margin bottom. And here I will use less spacing because I think the price and the text, which kind of describes the price, they belong closer together than the plan name and the price. So here we're once again using the law of proximity. Okay, and then this one here does not need any margin to the bottom because, well, the margin here is already been taken care of up here in the margin bottom of the plan header. Now, just before we go check it out, we should also format that $sign there. So that is in plan price. And then the span element in there. So let's make it smaller, but also not like super small. let's say like 3 rem. And if we don't want it to be as bold, then we need to also override the font weight that it is now inheriting from this one. Right, so this is a child element of the plan price, and so it is indeed inheriting the font weight. And so let's make it a little bit less so. Let's also add some margin to the right here, so to create some space between the two. And here 8 pixels might be good. So 0.8 rem. So let's check that. And yeah, that looks quite nice. But now I do think that the text here is actually too small, the name of the price here. But now, after all, I do actually think that this text here is way too small. So the name of the price is indeed quite important. So let's make it bigger. So here, like 2 rem, maybe even. Yeah, I think that makes sense like this. And now as for spacing, what we need next is some space between this one and this one. And I also want to center horizontally this button here. So we could now add some more helper classes to this button, but instead I will simply create like a parent element to this one here. So this one, let's call it the plan sign up. Okay. So let's text align center it. And then here we can add some margin to the top. So basically to create some space between the list and this element here. So instead of using a margin bottom on the list, we simply use margin top on the element below that. Because remember, the list is a reusable item, so a reusable component. And so there we do not want any margins. So between the header and the list, there is a margin of 4.8. And so let's use the same here. So margin top here, and now again 4.8 rem. Okay. Oh, and of course we need to do the same thing here on the left side as well. So just copying this. And there we go. Okay, so that is already looking like something. Oh, and I forgot to make this text here lighter. So remember how I said I was going to make it smaller and lighter, but I forgot the lighter part. So color here, and remember how we used to use 777, but remember that on the orange light background, that was not accessible. So here I will again use this one, because we will want to add actually some background color a bit later here. So going back, that looks even better, I think, in terms of visual hierarchy. And yeah, this is starting to look designed, starting to look nice, but there are still a lot of things that we will want to fix here. And so let's actually do that in the next video.